Every 5,000 miles, you drive to a shop. You pay someone $40 to $120. They drain the oil out of your engine. That oil still had thousands of miles of life left in it. You have been doing this your whole life. Your parents did it. Your grandparents did it. Nobody in your family ever stopped to ask one simple question. What if your engine could be made so tough on the inside that the oil barely breaks down at all? Not with better oil. Not with a $300 dealer package. Not with some fancy synthetic blend. With a $2 powder that sticks permanently to every metal part inside your engine, kills the friction that ruins your oil in the first place, and makes every oil change schedule on Earth meaningless. This powder is real. It has been around for over 200 years. The US military used it in World War II to keep tank engines alive across 3 continents. NASA put it in spacecraft parts where nobody was going to do an oil change. Japanese car companies have been using it in their home market since 1964. That is the real reason a Toyota taxi in Tokyo hits 600,000 kilometers on the original engine, while the exact same engine in America ends up in a scrapyard at 180,000 miles. It costs $2. It takes 15 minutes. And the $400 billion car repair industry has made sure you never heard about it. Your engine is not dying because it is old. It is dying because of friction. And friction was solved before you were born. Let me show you what is really going on inside your engine. Not the version from an oil company ad. The version from a lab. Your engine is full of metal parts sliding against other metal parts at insane speed and pressure. Pistons scraping against cylinder walls. Crankshafts spinning inside bearings. Camshafts pushing down on valve lifters. All of this is happening at 200 to 600 degrees, under pressure that would crush your hand flat. Oil is supposed to keep those metal surfaces apart. Most of the time, it does. A thin layer of oil sits between the parts and stops them from touching. That is what the oil industry sells you. That is what every premium synthetic formula is built to do. And when conditions are perfect, it works. But conditions inside your engine are never perfect. Every time you start your car, there is a 5 to 15 second window where the oil has not built up enough pressure yet. During those seconds, bare metal is grinding against bare metal. No oil film, no protection. Engineers call this the boundary lubrication zone. It is the most damaging thing that happens to your engine, and it happens every single time you turn the key. When you floor it, pull a trailer, or climb a steep hill, that oil film gets squeezed so thin it basically disappears. Metal hits metal again. More grinding, more tiny scratches, more material torn off surfaces that were built to exact measurements down to the width of a hair. Here is the number that matters. According to the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, 85 to 90% of all engine wear happens in this boundary zone. Not during normal driving, not when the oil is doing its job perfectly. Almost all the damage that eventually kills your engine happens in those few moments where oil simply cannot protect it. This is the secret the whole oil industry runs on. They sell you something that works 90% of the time. Then they build a whole business around the 10% where it does not work. That 10% creates tiny metal bits that dirty your oil. Dirty oil means you need a change. That change makes them money. Then it starts again. The 10% failure is not a problem in their product. It is how they make their money. Now let me tell you about the compound that fixes that 10% forever. Molybdenum disulfide. The formula is MoS2. It is a natural mineral. It comes out of the ground in North America, Scandinavia, China, and South America. Nobody makes it in a factory. It is mined, crushed into a fine powder, and people have been using it to reduce friction for over 240 years. Back in the 1780s, miners in Sweden and Norway were crushing this rock and packing it into the axles of their heavy ore carts. These carts hauled tons of rock through frozen tunnels, where animal grease froze solid and plant oils broke down in weeks. The miners called it black grease. They noticed it lasted way longer than anything else. It worked in brutal cold, and it left a hard, dark layer on the metal that nothing could scrub off. They did not know why it worked, They just knew it did. The axles lasted longer. The carts rolled easier. Maintenance went from every few weeks to every few months. Now we know exactly why. MOS2 has a layered crystal structure. Think of thousands of super-thin plates stacked on top of each other. The plates are strong on their own, but they slide against each other with almost no resistance. The friction between MOS2 layers is 60 to 75% lower than the friction produced by the best synthetic motor oil you can buy. That means 60 to 75% less friction in the exact zone where oil fails and where 90% of all engine damage happens. But here's the part that really matters. When MOS2 touches steel under heat and pressure, it does not just sit on top of the metal. The sulfur in the crystal actually bonds into the iron at the atomic level. It becomes part of the metal surface. This new layer fills in every tiny scratch, pit, and valley on the surface. It makes the metal smoother and harder than it was when it left the factory. You cannot wash it off. You cannot burn it off. Once it locks in, it is there for good. Roughly 300 to 500 miles of regular driving. After that, it holds for 50,000 to 70,000 miles, with zero need to reapply. Contaminating your oil stays fresh much longer. It degrades slower. It maintains its viscosity, because your engine is no longer eating itself alive from within. In 1941, military engineers needed lubricants that survived anything. Scorching deserts, frozen battlefields, around-the-clock wartime operations. Standard oil and grease broke down in every condition. They put MOS2 through testing at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. Findings published in declassified 1947 documents were remarkable. Metal fatigue fell by 80%. Components survived 2 to 3 times their expected life. It performed from -40 degrees up to 750 without flinching. They applied it to tank powertrains, bomber bearings, naval gun systems, landing craft hardware exposed to ocean water. Every trial, identical outcome. Military command rolled it out immediately and has never stopped using it under Defense Specification MIL PRF 907. By 1964, this substance found its way into Japanese automotive manufacturing. And this is where it should start to bother you. Research Institute evaluated 47 separate additives and surface treatments across 6 years. MOS2 outperformed every last one. Factory engine maintenance for their domestic market. They left it out of export manuals entirely. Technician has never come across it in a single training document. This method exists only in Japanese language records created for local service facilities. Gets maintained at every North American dealership, carries zero mention of it. By 100,000 to 150,000 miles. Same engine, same components, same engineering. Dollar natural mineral that global export buyers were deliberately left in dark about. A fleet operator near Osaka, managing 22 Toyota Corollas, has been recording this since 2009. Passed 580,000 kilometers last year. Factory engine, 0 rebuilds. Of original specifications after 20 straight years of daily commercial use. His engine upkeep cost per vehicle per year is $60. A comparable fleet in London replaces engines at 220,000 kilometers. Over $75,000 annually on engine swaps alone. Dollar bag of mineral powder. One fleet was never made aware of. Peer-reviewed research confirms every bit of this. Measured 68% less cylinder wear in MOS2 treated engines. Validated by 3 separate research teams. Never once challenged. % greater remaining usable oil life at identical mileage. Matched condition of oil from an untreated engine at 5,000. So why does an entire industry behave like this compound is invisible? Because nobody can patent a mineral sitting in earth. On a treatment that fuses permanently and never demands a second visit. Service counter when its working ingredient costs $2 from any supplier. Branded packaging and inflate pricing by 1,500%. Redline Blends contains this exact same mineral as its core active ingredient. Look at any safety data sheet yourself. It is listed plainly, % concentration, and retail it for $18 to $35. Here is how you skip all of that. 15 minutes. Under $4 total. Purchase technical-grade molybdenum disulfide powder from any industrial chemical supplier. Particle size rated below 2 microns to $4 and provides enough material for 5 to 7 applications. Get your engine up to full operating temperature. At least 10 minutes of normal driving. For anything up to 3.5 liters, 10 grams for any V6 or V8. Stir powder into 30 milliliters of whatever engine oil you currently run in a small container. Mix for 1 minute. Your oil filler cap, pour in mixture slowly, replace cap. Let it idle for 20 minutes. Then drive normally for 500 miles. That is it. Treatment is now bonded permanently. It holds through every oil drain. No retreatment for 50 to 70,000 miles. Miles of ownership. A dealership path runs $3,000 to $6,000. This path runs under $12. Same mineral, same science, same outcome. Scandinavian miners relied on this in 1780. Army engineers validated it in 1943. Japanese manufacturers built it into production in 1964. 80 years of published evidence supports it. Your awareness of it threatens wrong people's revenue. Send this to someone who drives. Into a service bay on a timetable they had no part in setting. This compound is molybdenum disulfide. Its formula is MOS2. It costs $2. Anyone collecting your oil change payments ever intended you to know.